Hey guys, Tim Ferriss here. Wanted to talk about note-taking. I have what you might call hypergraphia, which means I write all the time. So I have hundreds of notebooks. So I feel like I'm in a pretty good position to talk about what the hell to do with lots of notes. You need a systematic way of filtering the best stuff to the top of your attention, at least in some fashion. So I'll show you a few ways that I do that. It's pretty straightforward, but the key to all of it is multiple passes for almost all types of note-taking, and I'll describe a few different types of note-taking that I do regularly. The key is multiple passes and constantly asking, in effect, what did I think was important or cool that isn't that important or cool? And then only selecting the absolute and distilling the absolute best. So let's take a look at something really small, right? This is the type of notebook that I would put in a pocket, a back pocket. And this is from an event. It was actually a very good event, which was a Vanity Fair event in San Francisco many years ago. I want to say around 2013. And I'll show you one of the exercises that I like to do when I'm feeling overwhelmed or feeling like I need a reset, which I do certainly around New Year's, and there are certain seasonal times when I like to reflect. So I made a list, and the top is very simple. Craziest things I could do, or eliminate, or elim in parentheses. So I wrote this very quickly, and part of the point of the exercise was to write quickly and come up with all of the craziest things I could do that might alleviate stress. Now, shut down blog was one. The next one, because this is on multiple passes, stop all social media, schedule for 3 months, ? Sell all homes, stop using money, stop eating for 30 days, cut off feet. Turned out not to be something I wanted to do, so I didn't cut off my feet. Give away all money, buy one house with all money, live penniless for 1 year, volunteer in a retirement home. Okay, so the volunteer in a retirement home requires a whole lot of explanation, but I thought that it would be invigorating and karmically wonderful to do that, particularly with ideally a dog like my current dog, Molly. Nonetheless, I did not cut off my feet. I did not stop eating for 30 days, although I later did multiple 10-day fasts. The point of this whole list is to come up with lots of crazy ideas. They can be bad, they should be absurd, they should seem absurd, and then perhaps out of all those terrible ideas, you'll find one that will productively stretch your mind enough that you find a solution you wouldn't have considered otherwise. And in this case, stop all social media, schedule it out for 3 months, was the one of the entire list, and the list goes on, that I ended up choosing, and it completely changed how I related to using social media. And now that is a regular component of taking off-grid time to recharge and scheduling things in advance, using many different tools, whether that's Buffer, Edgar, or Zapier, like Happier, not Zapier, I used to say that. For automating a lot of this is also very helpful, from, say, Instagram to other platforms and so on. In any case, that is one example of note-taking and then reviewing. So the boxing and circling was a second pass, say a week later after the event. Then the highlighting was yet another pass, say a quarter later. I don't know the exact timing on this because I did act on it quite quickly, but there is a schedule for reviewing. So you're not just spewing onto the page and then forgetting it, with the exception of the next thing that I'm going to show you. So this is the expedient in the pocket brainstorm type of notebook, and I'll show you one more. I'm going to cover it up a little bit just to protect names. But you can see here, I've got Vanity Fair event. I have a couple of names at the top that were interesting to me. Graydon Walter Isaacson, who I much later ended up interviewing on the podcast, who's a brilliant guy, incredible writer. And then a bunch of quotes. So, playing the ratings game prevents you from taking risks. That's Ted Sarandos, Netflix. Seinfeld took 4 years to find an audience. Mad Men was turned down 66 times by buyers. I highlighted these. They made 3 passes because I felt like these were incredibly inspiring reminders that overnight successes rarely are overnight successes. And then the bottom right, it is action steps that I've listed. And I create these boxes in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm right-handed, might be easier on the left for lefties, I don't know. But I create a box in the bottom right-hand corner of all these pages so that I can put down potential action steps. The other thing that I'll do is I will number these pages, and a lot of this I can't show you guys. So, but suffice to say, if you see that, you see page 39, it's kind of hard to see, but I will number the right-hand pages. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I create an index later, which I probably can't show you either because there's too much top secret stuff, but I'll create an index in the beginning of a notebook, much like the index that I would use in books that I'm reading so that I can find highlights later. And you might ask, well, what about the pages that don't have numbers? That's easy, that's 0.5. All right, so if the number on the right-hand side is, say, page 2, if I flip it over on the back of that page in the index, it would just be 2.5. So that's how I keep track of something like this. The next type of writing that I'll describe is morning pages. And I'm not going to show you this page. Morning pages, popularized by Julia Cameron, introduced to me by a fantastic writer and friend, Brian Koppelman, of Rounders fame, The Illusionist, co-creator of Billions, really fantastic guy who's given me a lot of feedback on my writing, helpful feedback on my writing. Introduced me to morning pages as a superpower of sorts for many of his high-achieving creative friends who are professional writers, producers, etc. And the purpose of morning pages is not to write down a bunch of stuff that you will then vet 17 times. The purpose of morning pages is very different. As Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, might put it, they are acting these pages as spiritual windshield wipers. So you're taking the anxiety that you might feel, the distraction, your monkey mind, and trapping it on paper so that you can get on with your day. And sometimes there are gems that pop out, but very often it's really taking a nebulous fear or a nebulous discomfort or fidgetiness, whatever it might be, and putting it on paper first thing in the morning, hence the name Morning Pages. She recommends 3 longhand pages. And I'll just give you an example. So this is from July of last year, and I'll put the location and so on. And there is a Morning Pages workbook that I really like, but I just did it in a notebook I happen to have. Here's what I said. I'm worried and anxious about the no book. The irony, why? Well, I have 4 to 6 weeks, maybe a bit more based on the agreement. What's the worst that can happen, really? And then I made a bunch of bullets. Spend the summer working on it and, ... I have to push the deadline. Fine. Cancel the book and return the advance. Fine. I could still put it on the blog. Next bullet, make it super short and only great stuff, meaning only include great stuff. Say it straight, then say it great. That means getting the facts down, almost like a computer or like an iPad instruction manual, and then trying to improve the prose and say it more cleverly, put it more cleanly later. Next, I'm feeling uncertain about what to do next or first each day. And then a bunch of bullets, just get it all in one or fewer places. So gathering from notebooks, from digital, from Evernote, all into one place. Order the main chapters. Write an intro and conclusion, ? Remember the humor can include ridiculous stories such as A, B, C, D, and E, etc. You can see and you can hear this is not good writing. And it's not intended to be good writing. It's intended to be brain vomit. And that's the whole point. So morning pages I've found incredibly helpful for stress reduction, not principally for insight or structured thinking. It is unstructured trapping of your neuroses and anxieties in the amber that is the written page. So those are morning pages. And last but not least, we got this guy, 5-Minute Journal. And I will actually read an example because the format is very straightforward, and I can show you what it looks like. This is what the format looks like, and I'll get you a quote. All right, so let's find a good quote. All right, so here we go. So here's the basic format. You got the date at the top of the page. You get a quote, sometimes good, sometimes not, doesn't really matter, but some of them are fantastic. Then the prompts. So for the AM, doing this, say in the morning, I am grateful for 1, 2, 3. What would make today great? 1, 2, 3. Daily affirmations, I am blank blank. Then after your day is complete, say before dinner, before bed, 3 amazing things that happened today, 1, 2, 3. How could I have made today better? 1, 2. Now, This might seem simplistic, it might seem hokey, but it is first and foremost simple. And complexity fails. If I've learned anything, that is certainly one of the things that I've learned. And I've used the 5-minute journal for years in different capacities. And I am trying to find one that I can share with you. But I'll give you an example. And there are many, many, many that I could pull out. All right, so I'm going to read, and there are some guidelines that I've been given. And for many of these, I put prompts at the top that I want to remind myself of. So one of the prompts that I've used is state, story, strategy, and there are arrows that point to these. That is a heuristic borrowed from Tony Robbins, meaning you want to improve your physical state, your energy level, your state of arousal, so to speak, by doing a cold plunge, doing some jumping rope, whatever, before you create your story, which will be enabling or disabling or somewhere in between, and before you then create your strategy for achieving a goal or problem solving. Because if you're in a depressed state, and this is something I've struggled with, you're going to create a disabling or a victim-based story, and then your strategy is really going to be very narrow. It's not going to be particularly oblique or useful in an unusual way. If you have a heightened state, and then you can translate that into an enabling, optimistic story, your strategy will be better. So I wrote that at the top of many of these particular entries, blank entries, before then getting to them. In any case, so first morning back, Montreal was the day before. This is in 2017. I'm smiling at a friend of mine from Montreal. I am grateful for, and again, this might seem cheesy, but for me, if I use certain types of note-taking for digesting information or brainstorming, finding insight, that is one type of note-taking. I use morning pages for reducing nebulous anxiety or worry. And I use the 5-minute journal for focus, improving focus and execution. And appreciation, which you'll see. So I'm grateful for, number 1, bird song outside, beautiful. Number 2, fireflies and stars last night. Number 3, great sauna ×2 before bed and rain outside to lull to sleep. So I will write down any number of things. What has been a practice for me is choosing simple, basic things. In other words, you could say my family, my loving family, and that's great, but that is a big item. And I have tried to cultivate an appreciation of the smaller things, which could be this notebook, the convenience of this notebook and the quality of the leather. It could be one of my favorite coffee mugs, which is this yellow coffee mug, which has made many appearances in my 5-minute journal. And that trains you, I think, to notice the little things, which ultimately translates to, of course, noticing the big things, but not vice versa. All right, what would make today great? This was in 2017, create BOB forms. All right, so BOB later became TOT, which was Tools of Titans. I believe that was BOB. Is that BOB? Might have been. I think so. I think it was Tools of Titans. Might have been Tribe Mentors, but I think it was Tools of Titans, if we're looking at the dates. Look at TFS Answers, Shep Onward. That refers to Shep Gordon. So this is the second bullet. Also TOT Spreadsheet. All right, so that's Amanda Palmer. I created, and my team helped me create, different forms and spreadsheets for digesting the hundreds of hours of audio and transcripts that we have from the Tim Ferriss Show podcast. All right, so create BOB forms, look at TFS answers, and then number 3 was email 20 new people to test the form. And these would be forms that are either Google Forms or Wufoo Forms or something like that. That's it. What would make today great? That is it. I'm very prone to overestimating what I can do in a day and underestimating what I can do, say, in a year. And the benefit of the 5-minute journal with very little space and very few bulleted options is that you really need to be concise. You need to be succinct, and that helps me to overcome some of my lesser tendencies. Next, daily affirmations. I am forever forward. M dash, no hurry, no pause. No hurry, no pause is an expression that was taught to me by a friend, former Navy SEAL, and also quite common in Buddhist circles that I became very fond of, and I think that made it into Tools of Titans and maybe into Tribe of Mentors. Daily affirmations, I am. All right, second bullet, good at this 4 times before. So just reassuring myself that I can actually complete books, because whether you realize it or not, I find writing extremely difficult and am panged with great concerns of insufficiency every time I try to write a book, if that makes anyone feel better. In the PM review, 3 amazing things that happened today. I also always try to include at least one thing that is small. Molly, that's my dog, healing while walking around a few different retail stores. Very basic. Molly used to have a tendency to pull on the leash, sometimes still does, and she healed really well. Great, that's bullet number 1. Next bullet, per Naval. So Naval Ravikant, who's a bit of an oracle, an incredibly gifted and very smart investor, he predicted that crypto was going to drop 30 to 40%, and lo and behold, it did drop 30 to 40%, and he called it exactly. Number 3, great late night call with a dear friend of mine. That's it. 3 amazing things that happened today. Boom, those are 3. So I guess late night call is probably the night before. That's okay. Sometimes I make catch up. And then last but not least, how could I have made today better? So this was late June 2017. And it's good for me to see this because I need the reminder, even though I've been quite good at titrating back. Number 1, don't use keto as an excuse to drink 15 liters of coffee. That's the ketogenic diet. And if I'm using a low-calorie keto diet to transition into fasting, sometimes I compensate for that during the very awkward kind of gray transition period of keto flu to drink copious amounts of coffee, which always backfires and has negative side effects. So don't use keto as an excuse to drink 15 liters of coffee. I wasn't literally drinking 15 liters, if those on the internet are taking that literally. Next, drink less coffee, use caffeine pills if needed. All right, so coffee is a really interesting substance and has effects on the ability to conceive, pregnancy, and so on, that seems to apply even if it's decaf, as an example. So this was a period when I was very, very tightly wound on high doses of caffeine and wanted to make an effort to decrease my coffee consumption. And when you use the 5-minute journal consistently, what I will do then is, say, every quarter go back and look for patterns. And 2 of the patterns that I noticed were, what could I do to make tomorrow better? The 2 most common answers were drink less coffee and wake up earlier. Those were the 2. So I have made concerted effort with accountability to do both of those things. And that is the 5-minute journal. So we have brainstorm, insight, note-taking, review, right, for answers, problem solving, interesting goals, and so on. We've got the morning pages, which I can do here or in the morning pages workbook for reducing anxiety or worries, neuroses, whatever it might be. And then the 5-minute journal, which is very helpful for both focus, keeping things simple, and appreciation. So you don't have to do all 3 of these every day. I certainly don't. I use them as needed. But when I do even one of these consistently, I see a dramatic difference in not just my quality of life, but focus and ability to execute consistently. So hopefully that helps at least one of you out there. And thanks for watching.